Well, I'm a little bit concerned, team, because it appears that Green MP, or former Green MP Darleen Tana, has been a little bit loose with her preferred pronouns, and they seem to be changing back and forward. However, I want the media to know what my personal pronouns are. Let's check it out. So Green MP Darleen Tana, who is no longer welcome in the Party of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, is not a she. Despite clearly being XX chromosome and having been a she until about a month ago, no, she is a they, them. You will never walk alone.
My pronouns are they, them. I never walk alone, in fact.
Yeah, the media thought she was taking the... PISS in their own words. You can draw your own conclusion. Anyway, she's taking on the Green Party, who want to expel her from the party for alleged migrant exploitation. A very important word amongst all that, alleged. But One News, who are very woke, went along with this grand confusion of they, them. So let's watch the report and let's count how many times the reporter misrepresents the English language in the name of wokeness. She'll be saying to herself, don't say her, don't say she, don't say her. Let's check it.
High Court. The MP's lawyers have filed for a judicial review of the Green Party and its co-leaders. It is also seeking an injunction in order to stop a planned Green Party membership meeting that was set to be held this coming Sunday. Now, at that meeting, the membership is set to decide the future of Darleen Tana here at Parliament and whether or not they would waka jump the MP out of Parliament. Now, clearly today's move is a bold one by the former Green MP. It's clear they are not going down without a fight. They maintain that they have been treated badly by their former party amid allegations of migrant worker exploitation at their husband's business. Now, the Greens co-leader, Chloe Swarbrick, held a press conference here late this afternoon saying it was unprecedented and that the party has informed its members of the current developments, saying they will undoubtedly be feeling very frustrated. Here is what Chloe Swarbrick had.
They will undoubtedly be feeling very frustrated. Who? The Greens or Darleen? They're both theys. But anyway, 6 times she got the personal pronouns correct. I take my hat off to Mikey Sherman. That was excellent reporting. To twist and distort the English language so smoothly actually takes some doing. Now, the New Zealand Herald report worked even harder and woker, and I want to read this report to you and then play a small game with you. Now, the easy way around this whole misgendering issue is just to say the name of the person, Tana. But after a while, most people go to the biological pronouns, he or she, him or her, his or her. So let's look at parts of the New Zealand report. And unlike Mikey Sherman, this is a written report. So you can actually do a search and destroy. I mean, you know, if you're writing this and you want to be woke, you search for offensive words like he, him, she, her, and you replace them with the preferred pronouns. So this is what the article said. Tana quit the Greens after a damning report into their involvement in alleged migrant exploitation at their husband's business. Since then, Tana has sat as an independent MP. The Greens urged Tana to quit Parliament and have been debating whether to use the law against them to force their hand. They had an AGM and they wrote to Tana saying their resignation from Parliament had distorted the proportionality of the House, it's harder to say than right, as required under legislation. Tana responded to the letter, arguing they did not think the law could reasonably be invoked against them. Now, according to the law of gender woke, one of my new words for 2024, you can have any of these preferred pronouns. It's not just they, them for those that never walk alone. I mean, it's quite a list. I've listed the normal ones and then there's all the rest. But let's take a look at the ones that are program targeted at young people in New Zealand as teaching. This is called In Your Skin. It's a program written by 2 Australian sexologists. You might want to check that it's not in your local school. So the pronouns could be, apart from, she, her, he, him, they, them, could be sie, them, sie, her, am, her, fey, fair, or hoo. Now, I'm a bit of a entomologist. I like spiders and ants and creepy crawlies. I am the go-to person when a daddy long legs or a tinsy wincy spider or even a nasty cockroach appears somewhere in the house and my daughters are screaming their heads off, literally. Even the really tiny spiders, it's like World War III. So I may decide that I'm going to identify as hoo-hoo, but of course not a bug in the system. So let's rewrite the article for someone who identifies as hoo-hoo, like, for example, me. So let's pretend this article is about me. McCoskrie quit the Greens after a damning report into who involvement in alleged migrant exploitation at who wife's business. It's got to be a wife for me, obviously. Since then, McCoskrie sat as an independent MP. The Greens have urged McCoskrie to quit Parliament and have been debating whether to use the law against who to force whose hand. That's not a question. And at the party's AGM in Christchurch, they began the waka jumping process, writing to McCoskrie, saying whose resignation from Parliament, well, it's mine, who, had distorted the proportionality of the House as required under legislation. And I responded to the letter arguing who did not think the law could be reasonably invoked against who. Or is that who did not think the law could reasonably invoked against who? That's a statement, not a question. See how crazy this is going to become? Every personal pronoun of choice amongst all these is going to simply confuse English language, confuse the story, and confuse the normal person. In fact, there was another example of this in Time magazine. Couple of years ago, they were talking about the author of a highly objectionable and sexually explicit book for young people called Gender Queer. I'm not going to show you it, and I'm certainly not going to show you the content. It is sexually explicit, offensive material. But according to Wikipedia, the author of the book uses Spivak pronouns, E-M, air, and identifies as non-binary and asexual. Spivak pronouns, you ask? Yeah, I had to look it up as well. The Spivak pronouns are apparently a set of gender-neutral pronouns in English promulgated on the virtual community Lambda Mu, based on pronouns used in a book by American mathematician Michael Spivak. Okay, so Time magazine decided to write about the author of Gender Queer, Maya Kababi, and so the tweet said, Time spoke to genderqueer author and illustrator Maya Kababi about air work, the efforts to restrict access to air writing, and what A make of the current cultural moment. Yep, bet you understood that. So let's continue my little experiment here. Let's pretend Maya Kababi is a Green MP. I mean, she's got all the qualifications. And the New Zealand Herald are doing their report. There's a fallout between the Greens and Maya Kababi. Kababi quit the Greens after a damning report into air involvement in alleged migrant exploitation at Air Husband's business. Since then, Kababi has sat as an independent MP. The Greens urged Kababi to quit Parliament and have been debating whether to use the law against M to force Air hand. They had the AGM, began the waka jumping process by writing to Kababi saying air registration from Parliament had distorted the proportionality. Kababi responded to the letter arguing E did not think the law could reasonably invoked against M. Well, that went well, didn't it? Now, does this all matter? Well, as I've been repeating all week, the Law Commission are currently asking for submissions on the issue of whether transgender and non-binary people and people who never walk alone, like Darleen or Maya Kababi, who is an airhead, should have, you see what I did there, should have special protections under the Human Rights Act, and whether those people who believe in biological truth and don't believe in gender ideology, like you and me, should be deemed to be discriminating and therefore subject to possible punishments. In fact, in this report, misgendering is mentioned almost 50 times in the paper. And they even suggest that misgendering and dead naming are forms of discrimination that could be unlawful. The New Zealand Herald, who was trying so hard in the morning not to misgender, messed it up by morning tea time. And you can see there that Tana sought an injunction, and they say whether or not to use the law to oust her following her resignation from the party. And on the top rating breakfast radio show of Mike Hoskins on News Talk ZB, there was a whole lot of misgendering going on. In fact, have a listen and let's count how many times they misgender Darleen Tana, who never walks alone.
And applied for an interim injunction to stop the party meeting this weekend, as in the Green Party. University of Otago law professor Andrew Gedd is with us on this morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Mike.
Just work me through a layman's view of this. She isn't in a party. How can a person go to court to ask somebody to do something that they're not even a part of? That doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
Well, that'll be what they'll be trying to convince a court to actually even listen to. So she's resigned from the party, but she's asking the court to tell the party they're not allowed to have a meeting where the party will discuss whether or not she should be kicked out of Parliament. I could only assume she's going to argue something along the lines of she has a right to natural justice, that she should be able to be heard at that meeting, but that's a real stretch. I find it very hard to see how she's going to make that stand up.
Okay, I don't know if you were fully counting there, but actually, I mean, she resigned from the party, but she's asking the court to tell the party they're not allowed to have a meeting, whether she'll be kicked out of Parliament. I can only assume she's going to argue something. Whew, I mean, actually, 9 times in that whole interview. Now, that is not accidental. That is intentional misgendering, in my legal woke view. News Talk ZB should be ashamed of themselves. But in breaking news, according to this report, Darleen Tana, legal wrangling, she's still an MP for now, and her pronouns are again she, her. Yes, in the report it says Justice Moore, the judge, also paused to check with Tana's lawyer, Sharon Green, what Tana's preferred pronouns were. Last month, she indicated she was going by they, them, but the lawyer told him, the judge, that she would go by she, her. Her pronouns are again she, her, but you can't find that on the Post's website anymore. Nope, somebody got told off. And it's now this. Greens cancel meeting after legal action from Darleen Tana and no mention of the pronoun change. Now, it's still on the Stuff site, but not the Post, which, of course, was the formerly reputable and credible Dominion Post. They didn't want to talk about it. You see, the media have just gone back to biological reality just like that. And maybe that's what the New Zealand Herald were doing with that whoopsie later on in the morning. But News Talk ZB definitely weren't. They were misgendering terribly before that change back, before Darleen made that change back. Now, here's the thing. Where's the outrage against Tana's disrespect for preferred pronoun usage? I'm still waiting for the outrage from the media and LGBT activists about abuse of personal pronouns. Can we literally just change them like that in the space of a month? There has been silence from the outrage mob. No shouts of bigotry or transphobia or hate or Nazi or TERF or whatever other name they can think of. But look, here's what makes me actually angry about all of this. Because a high school maths teacher was taken to the teaching council and had his teaching registration cancelled after he refused to use the preferred pronouns for a 14-year-old student who was in the process of transitioning from a biological girl to a boy. And the teaching council said that teachers must not use their authority to undermine the personal identity of their learners or inappropriately influence them. But as I said, they've got no problems with Inside Out or the radical RSE curriculum influencing and undermining students. That teacher has lost their career because of this madness. And yet here's a former Green MP treating personal pronouns, in my view, like a joke. Well, perhaps they are. Anyway, I'm off to find some bugs. So that's it from me. I mean, who?